right, welcome everyone. Career Guides, I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer. Today, we're exploring something that's going to fundamentally transform how you support your clients. We are talking about mastering the application coach. Think of this as your new, highly capable digital assistant. Now, we are setting up a safe training ground today using sample CVs and job postings so you can really get hands-on and simulate real-world counseling situations. By the time we're done here, you're going to feel incredibly confident using this AI tool to elevate your practice.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by meeting your application coach. Then we'll look at the 6-step workflow, followed by crafting effective prompts. Next up is quality control. And finally, we'll wrap up with your role as counselor.
So Section 1, meet your application coach, simulating real scenarios. Now, we aren't going to just throw you into the deep end with real clients today. This is your sandbox to experiment using sample materials. And as you're testing this tool, there's one thing I really need you to keep in mind. Focus on understanding the process, not just the output. I mean, it's so tempting when you first use an AI tool to look at a shiny, finished cover letter and think, wow, done. But to truly master this digital assistant, you've got to understand how it got there. How does it translate a job requirement to an evaluation? How exactly does it spot a gap in a client's profile? Mastering that process is what's going to give you the power to guide your clients toward much stronger positioning.
During your practice sessions, you'll be focusing on 4 core tasks. First is job posting analysis. You'll have the tool identify not just the obvious requirements, but those tricky, implicit expectations hidden in a job ad. Second is profile evaluation, where you're objectively assessing a candidate's strengths and spotting the gaps. Third is document improvement. This is all about enhancing the structure of a CV and making those bullet points hyper-relevant. And finally, content creation, developing perfectly tailored CV summaries and drafting targeted cover letters. These are the fundamental building blocks of a really incredible application strategy.
Moving on to Section 2, the 6-step workflow, a repeatable method.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it brings order to the AI chaos. To make the application coach truly work for you, you need a strictly repeatable sequence. We don't just dump a CV and a job ad in and say, fix it. We move step by step. Step 1, analyze the job posting all on its own. Step 2, analyze the CV. Step 3, compare them. Step 4, improve the CV based on that comparison. Step 5, create the cover letter. And Step 6, refine the output. It flows perfectly from independent analysis to synthesis and then into targeted action.
Let's look a little closer at the logic of those first 3 steps, because this is where the magic really happens. In Step 1, by starting with just the job ad, you develop a totally clear, objective understanding of what the employer actually needs. Then in Step 2, you analyze the CV completely independently of the job. You're just trying to understand who the candidate is on their own merits. Only in Step 3 do you finally bring them together. Why? Because this perfectly simulates a real recruiter's evaluation process. It prevents bias and builds a solid foundation before you even think about making edits.
All right, Section 3, crafting effective prompts, talking to AI.
So how do you actually get the AI to give you a good answer? Well, it's all in the prompting. A super common bad habit we all fall into is the vague prompt, like simply typing, improve this CV. If you do that, the AI is just going to guess, and the changes will probably be pretty generic. But notice the more effective approach here. Here's a CV and a job posting. Identify gaps and suggest improvements. Just by providing that bit of context, your results are going to become exponentially more targeted and useful.
Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds into something even better. We can take that more effective prompt and turn it into a highly effective one using structured, multi-part commands. Instead of a basic request, you tell the AI, analyze this job ad and CV, list the 5 most important requirements, evaluate how well the candidate meets them, suggest specific CV improvements. See what we did there? You aren't just asking for an answer, you're commanding a specific analytical process.
Which brings us to Section 4, quality control, the human check.
Okay, quality control is absolutely critical, because just because the AI sounds confident doesn't mean it's right. We literally cannot accept AI output blindly. So our very first mandatory check is accuracy. You must ensure that any suggested changes or rewritten bullet points remain completely consistent with the original CV content. If the AI rewrites a sentence to make it sound punchier, you have to verify that the core facts of your client's work history haven't been exaggerated.
Next up is realism. And honestly, this is a big one.
AI models are basically extreme people pleasers. They desperately want to give you a perfect match for that job posting. So if you aren't careful, the AI might just casually invent a decade of experience for a software that was only invented 2 years ago. Never let the AI add skills or years of experience your client doesn't actually possess. Checking for realism is how you protect your client's professional integrity.
And then, of course, clarity. AI absolutely loves to use big, flowery corporate language. It loves words like synergy and spearheaded. As the human in the loop, you have to strip away that generic AI fluff. Always prefer simple, precise language over complex or vague wording. The final output needs to sound like a real, highly competent professional, not a robot trying to sound smart.
And finally, Section 5, your role as counselor, the human advantage.
And this brilliantly illustrates the golden rule of this entire workflow. The tool provides structure and suggestions, you provide judgment and context. The application coach is not here to do your job. It's a brainstorming partner. Sure, it can process text incredibly fast, but it doesn't know the anxious client sitting across from you. It doesn't know their unique life context or their true potential. That requires your human judgment.
So, what are your direct responsibilities when using this tool? Well, you are the ultimate decision maker. It's your job to interpret and aggressively challenge the AI's results. You decide which of its suggestions are actually useful and which should be tossed out. You have to adapt its outputs to fit the specific case in front of you. And finally, you are the gatekeeper who ensures the final CV or cover letter is credible, appropriate, and ready for the real world.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to ponder as you start your practice sessions. As you master this repeatable 6-step method, how will your new digital assistant transform the way you empower your next client? Just think about the time you're going to save on formatting and the deeper, much more strategic conversations you can have instead. Get in there, dive into those sample CVs, experiment with those prompts, and have a blast testing out your new application coach.